out front tonight. Chaos at the White House. President Trump's deputy chief of staff, his communications director, is out. And the move catching just about everyone off guard. Bill Shine was brought on to clean up the president's public image, fresh from Fox News. But sources tell CNN Trump turned on Shine, questioning his judgment when there was no change in how the president was being covered. So Trump is shipping Shine off to help advise on his 2020 campaign. Role to be determined. Apparently they didn't know this was coming either. They got this guy coming in now. All right. Here's the thing. Bill Shine, of course, came to the White House from Fox. As I mentioned, he was a senior executive there. But the thing is, when it came to his press coverage, Trump cares about a lot more than Fox News.
I could do the greatest thing in the world, and they would make it look bad. I could do, between the Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN is just ridiculous.
Okay, not ridiculous. Well, the president knows it, and he cares so deeply. He has now come to realize that a guy who used to run Fox News can't change the situation. Here's the thing about Shine. He's just the latest to fail, the sixth person to have been named communications director since Trump was elected. It's got to be an historical record, some lasting just days. We're talking about you, Anthony Scaramucci. Others lasting a couple of months. No one even lasting a year. Bill Shine's ouster coming in part thanks to how he handled the fallout over the longest shutdown in U.S. history. Remember this shutdown?
I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down. And I'm going to shut it down for border
But we
security.
believe you.
I mean, it's really hard to blame Bill Shine for that, right? I mean, it's pretty hard for any communications director to make a president look blameless after that. And it does not matter who has had the top communications job at the White House. They all have had to deal with a president who creates his own problems, whether it's trying to spin why he's siding with Russia over his own intelligence agency.
I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
Or attempting to explain Trump's response to the deadly white nationalist attack in Charlottesville, Virginia.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
And now, as the president begins another search for another communications director, there may be only one person left that's up for the job.
Okay, what's your first name, Danny? John Barron.
John Barron, a man who, well, he sounds like President Trump because he is President Trump. John Barron was the name Trump used when he used to call reporters, handling his own press in New York. No one else could do it, so he made up a name for himself and did it. Talking about how wonderful of a person he would to be to date, on and on and on. Maybe he's the communications director here. Caitlin Collins out front live outside the White House. And Caitlin, Shine's departure was very sudden.
Very sudden. So sudden that it surprised a lot of people in the West Wing who said they'd just been having conversations with Bill Shine about upcoming events or him talking about reorganizing the communications teams. Things that they did not believe indicated he was going to be on his way out. But Aaron, one thing did. Bill Shine was scheduled to go on the president's trip to Vietnam last week, but unexpectedly, just about 2 days before that trip, he announced that he was going to stay back in Washington and no longer go on the trip, which raised some eyebrows among aides. Now, in his statement today, President Trump praised Bill Shine, saying that he thinks he'll do good work on his re-election campaign. But actually, our sources tell us that behind the scenes, the president had been complaining about Bill Shine, saying that he brought him in to get him better press coverage, and he simply had not delivered on that. Now, you just raised several instances of why that could be difficult for anyone to get President Trump better press coverage. But even aides in the White House who liked Bill Shine, who enjoyed working with him, questioned what his media strategy truly was and if it was going to revamp the comms team at all. Now, the communications team, which has struggled throughout the Trump administration, is still here, but now they're looking for someone else to lead it. And you just laid out how many people have had this job, and now people are wondering who is going to take this job and be the 7th communications director.
Lucky 7. Thank you very much, Caitlin. Let's go now to Joan Walsh, national affairs correspondent for The Nation, Scott Jennings, former special assistant to President George W. Bush, and April Ryan, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks. April, you're at the White House day in, day out. So we understand that, Schein was in planning meetings. He was strategizing in communications in recent days. And all of a sudden, he's gone to the 2020 campaign, which no idea he was coming.
Yeah.
Did you have any indication Schein was on the way out?
Not really, but with this president, he sours on you fast, especially when his image is not turned around like he wanted. Bill Schein basically failed up, and it was on Fire Me Friday once again when it happens. And basically, Aaron, what we saw when Bill Schein was there, he was trying to work with reporters. He was talking with reporters to try to change the image, to soften the tensions between reporters and this president and the White House. There's typically something called a friendly adversarial relationship that Mike McCurry, the former press secretary for then Bill Clinton, would call it. But there's such tension. And we even saw it, Aaron, when the president started talking to reporters like myself, Abby Phillip, and others, when we would ask him questions compared to what happened that November after the midterm elections, how he called us out just in a span of days, me, Yamiche, and Abby. So we saw a softening of the president, but it just wasn't working. So Bill Schein was on Fire Me Friday.
And so, Scott, look, the president turned on Schein. Our White House team is saying the president just decided he was ineffective, not what he hoped for when he hired him. Look, this is the sixth person. It would seem an impossible job, right? Unless things, someone can just, make something that's black look white and white look black. It would seem an impossible job to do. Would you take this job? I mean, is this or not?
Well, I think if the president calls you, you've got to have a conversation about it. It's a high honor to be asked to be in public service by the president. I think the metric for deciding whether this person can succeed is really around what the scope of work is. And it strikes me that now that the president is in cycle, the two most important things he can task the next person with doing are amplifying the administration's good work on the economy, setting up a war room to get their arms around all the onslaught of the congressional investigations. Those two things are what the next communications director should be focused on day in and day out. It's a big government. There's a lot going on. It's easy to get distracted and bogged down. But if I were advising the president tonight, I would say somebody should be tasked with those two things. And if that's what they get done for you over the next year and a half, that will be a successful tenure as comms
I noticed
director.
you didn't say you would take it or not take it.
Scott might get a call. That's kind of pretty good.
Okay, Joan, here's the thing, though. Would Scott succeed, or can anyone succeed other than John Barron, who, by the way, is one of the few people, since they're not allowed to do NDAs anymore. I mean,
John Barron is perfect because
it's crazy.
I mean, Trump spends very little time actually doing his own job. So as the John Barron figure, he has plenty of time to be his own communications director. And I do think that that's kind of where we are. I mean, the choice of Bill Schein in the first place was a little bit weird because he already has the Fox audience. He's captured the Fox audience. They've captured him. I don't know which way it goes exactly, but he's got his little terrarium where people say almost always nice things. He listens to them. He tweets about what they say on Fox and Friends. Yeah. What did he expect Bill Schein to do? Bill Schein was, Sean Hannity's producer. He had no experience working with a broader, non-ideological, diverse group of White House correspondents, et cetera. So it was an odd fit to begin with. Also, Bill Schein did not insult three black women, as April was referring to a little while ago. Bill Schein did not call the Charlottesville white supremacists fine people. So Trump is the reason he's getting crappy coverage.
Trump himself.
Right.
It's
I mean,
not
April,
Bill Schein. Here's the thing. When you look at this, when I said this is going to be the seventh person, whoever this person is, Jason Miller, Sean Spicer, Mike Dubke, Anthony Scaramucci, Hope Hicks. I mean, this is kind of absurd. Now, Bill Schein served a long time. I mean, my gosh, look at those other numbers. It's pretty grim. Yeah, Anthony Scaramucci might beg to differ here. I thought he said it was 11 days. Anyway, you get my point. What does this mean, April, on a day-to-day basis when you have this kind of turnover?
And you hit the nail squarely, turnover. When you have that kind of excessive turnover in that job, that is a critical job for any administration. You create the message. You are the message to come out on policy or whatever the president has to say. But when you have a president that defeats his own purposes, who knocks his own self, I mean, it's hard to deal with that. I mean, I heard you recount, putting your hands, I heard Scott recount putting your hands around the issues of these investigations and dealing with some of the other policy issues. But then when you have a president who goes out on Twitter and when he says things just extemporaneously, how do you help a president like that? This president is his own worst enemy. And then, you were talking about Fox News. You had a large portion who was for the president, but you have others out there on Fox who weren't necessarily happy with the president. So that didn't do well for his image as well, particularly when it came to the issue of the wall. Can we say Ann Coulter? So
well,
it's just the president is his own worst enemy, and no one can take this job successfully and win for the president.